Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I just want to take a few moments and go over some quick housekeeping tips if you haven't been on this platform before. First of all, we will be answering questions at the end of this webinar. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A widget. If you click on that, that is where you can type in your questions. Again, we will be answering those at the end. If you do have any technical issues, there is also a help widget at the bottom of your screen. It looks like a question mark. Click that, and that should answer any issues. If you do have any additional issues, please use the Q&A widget, and I will address those on the back end. Also, there will be an on-demand version of this webcast available within 1 day after the end of it, and can be accessed anytime using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Brian Weaver.
Great, Emily. Thank you so much. And what I'd like to do is just kind of cover the agenda for today's event. So this is the 12th in our series of Professional Services Series webinars, and really appreciate those of you that have taken the time to attend today. So, we've got the welcome and introductions that we'll do, discussion on the state of B2B digital, and what we're kind of seeing trending in the market, especially in the distribution space. Some customer success stories, including SX.e clients. And then, as per usual, anyone that's been on our webinars before, we always like to have a particular offer associated with the webinar, and Insight has been gracious enough to grant us, I think, a really compelling offer for today's session as well. We will take questions. There is a Q&A box that we would ask that you please feel free to go ahead and enter your questions as we continue on, and we'll make sure we get those addressed for you. So what I'd like to do is introduce Brian Stroh. So you got the dueling Brians today. You got myself, NSA's VP of Sales, and Brian, who is co-founder and EVP of Insight. Insight was founded in 2004, and Brian brings a strong distribution background as well as B2B e-commerce experience. And prior to Insight, Brian was with 3M and dealt with a number of major retailers such as Target, Walmart, Office Depot, and Staples, and he's got a significant amount of experience in B2B e-commerce as well. Over 20 years helping distributors with a digital strategy, extensive experience in both B2B as well as B2C sites, and he'll be covering some of the differences between those today and why it's important, especially for distributors, to really have a B2B solution. And then, kind of a deep understanding of the key integrations and the info products as well. So it'll be, I think, a really, really strong session. And with that, Brian, pass it over to you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate the introduction, and I appreciate the partnership. This is always a strong combination when you can combine, the strength of an ERP system, which is really the system of record for so many organizations, along with a great front-end customer experience out on the web. So, it's funny, you mentioned in my background that I've been doing this for 20 years. It's hard to believe that e-commerce has been around for 20 years, but it certainly has. When Amazon started selling music online and expanded to what it is today, it's really come a long way. And so what I'd like to start with, just because of the amount of time that I've spent working with manufacturers and distributors, is just to share a few observations. Just open the session by sharing a little bit about what I've seen and what I've heard from companies. And, one of the first things that comes to mind is that manufacturers and distributors, specifically distributors here today, are different than retailers. And we hear so often that companies are trying to build a site that acts like Amazon or a site that looks like Apple. But the truth of the matter is it needs to be built for B2B. Distributors have very different business rules and products and interactions with their customers. They have different types of users, ranging from their own sales team to technical resources, to different people on the client side. So, one thing I will say is that online solutions have to be built specifically for the uniqueness of a distributor. I'll tell you a little bit about Insight, and then I'll give you a couple of more observations. So as Brian mentioned, Insight has been around for over 15 years. I personally worked as a consultant after leaving 3M to help smaller to mid-size suppliers, distributors, really optimize what they're doing online. And back in those days, so many websites were custom. They required a lot of custom code and a lot of maintenance. And the good news is today we now have the ability to deploy solutions that are much more out of the box. And that's really the promise that Insight brings to the customers and the folks on the call here today. We leverage very strong ERP relationships and integrations to solutions like E4, and we're powering over 1 million different unique experiences every day. And we're very honored to also be recognized by a leading analyst firm, Forrester. And Forrester has studied many different technologies. They do one of these for ERP. They do the software. And e-commerce, they also appreciate that B2B is different. A distributor uses a different system and should use a different system than a retailer. And so as far as B2B commerce suites go, there are a handful of solutions out there that are well recognized, and we're honored to be considered a leader, really among some of the largest solutions in the world that are really not affordable. And Insight's proud to say that we are really one of the only solutions on this grid that makes a solution that's a leading product that is affordable to the mid-market. So a few other observations, and I'm guessing that since all of you are web users, right, you're placing orders online, and many of you are selling online, that we have to realize that online commerce for a distributor isn't easy. We can't underestimate it, and these things have to be present. We have to be integrated to our back office system. We have to be able to handle contract pricing and customer-specific pricing, and even give our customers unique catalogs. Each customer should not see the same thing every time they log in. We need to realize that there's going to be approval processes and workflows, both on the customer side as well as within your own organization before an order is allowed to flow into your Infor system. We have to handle complex, sometimes configurable products, and we also need to really understand how can we get these orders into our system quickly and get them shipped into our customer as soon as possible. We're really conditioned as a user to expect an Amazon-like experience, including very fast delivery. And so this does require us to build solutions that are going to be much more automated. The other observation that I have about distributors is far and away, there are phases that are common across distributors. And when I talk with companies that I would consider to be new or have not a lot of maturity online, and then companies that have been doing this for 10 years, they all seem to have gone through different phases. But unfortunately, those organizations that are in early phases, they're not seeing a lot of adoption. And so what I've come to realize is that as we give our users, our customers, more of the advanced capabilities, that's when we start to really see the adoption rate climb for our portals and our e-commerce sites. So it may be that a company starts out with just a content site. Maybe it's your corporate site. Maybe you have an online catalog that people can browse, but they can't order today. Or maybe they can request a quote, but that quote really just turns into an email. Now, many companies have added in a customer portal, maybe provided by the ERP or another vendor, where we can start to look up order history, we can see order status, we could pay an invoice, and we start to see more adoption. There's more there for the customer to use. But as we start to really give these customers the things that they're looking for, that is, let's make recommendations on the things that they should be buying. Let's allow maybe a new customer to come into our website and place an order under a different type of price list. Show me the inventory and what's available for me to buy. And then the advanced capabilities around things like quoting or punch out, which is really our ability to accept an order electronically, almost like EDI, but without the complexity of EDI. Giving our sales team a login so they can use this portal while they're sitting with a customer, and making sure that we have a very mobile-friendly site. So this roadmap, if you will, really does ring true as we see companies that have very high adoption. And when I say high adoption, we have customers that are recognizing 50% or more of their customers that are leveraging the portal and that are doing business online. And those same companies just a few years ago were at 5 or even 10%. So these phases are something that I would encourage you to really think about. So that brings up really the current state and the problems that companies have trying to build a better online experience. You see, B2B and distributors, as we all know, have so many different players. It's almost a cast of characters, right? We have our inside sales team or our CSRs. We have our sales reps that are working with customers. On the customer end, we might have different types of users. It might be a technical user, an engineer, maybe a procurement buyer, service techs that are out in the field, and then other partners that might be selling our product. And so companies try to figure out, how do I give each of these users what they need, but also connect it to my ERP and my other systems along the bottom of this screen? So what do? Well, they start to go out and buy different solutions or build different solutions. And that may solve a problem for one user, for one type of an online user, but it ultimately results in having a very complicated web, even a spider web, if you will, of technologies that aren't talking to one another, that aren't integrated. And now we look at our system and say, well, gosh, we just have too many different solutions out there. So Insight and NSA have really worked to create a vision that will allow a customer to deploy a solution that doesn't require so many different technologies. And with a solution like Insight, we have the ability to give each of these users the interfaces that they need, whether it's e-commerce, the ability to place an order, the ability to request a quote, maybe a mobile catalog, or even just your corporate website, and not needing to have different software solutions to run all these different interfaces. And so by combining really all of these different front ends with a single commerce platform, we're able to really simplify and streamline your online solutions. And when we do that, then we start to see the ROI. And these ROI elements include a better customer experience. So your customers will start to rate you as easier to do business with, right? I can log into this website and I can get anything I need at any time. It reduces the burden on your sales organization. We're no longer asking sales team to do administrative things, but they can do more selling. Obviously, we would be able to process orders faster if we can accept an order, get it into the Infor system, and shipped same day. That would be an ideal situation. And then finally, you'll see increased adoption. We'll see more users using this system, and as a result, we'll see more revenue coming in online. And those ROI factors aren't really just a dream. They're not just pie in the sky. We have a number of examples to share with customers that have come back to us and said, yes, indeed, we've seen a nice increase in customer adoption, or we've seen new customers that found our online catalog, our products through, and it's resulted in new customers and new revenue. We've converted offline events like phone calls and emails to more online events and what we call digital self-service. So these are very tangible and very specific ROI results that our customers have been willing to share with us. And we'll talk about a couple of these in just a second. So that brings us to the question of, well, what are the things that my website really needs? And far too often we find that companies have gone out and perhaps purchased a B2C oriented solution. Maybe they've gone with a solution that was designed more for retail. So they have a lot of B2C features, but they lack the B2B capabilities. They really lack some of the complexity. And likewise, there's a lot of solutions out there that were built for B2B, right? A portal, or maybe something provided along with ERP that didn't bring those B2C features. And what we really believe and what we've seen work is by combining great B2C features on the front end with very strong B2B features on the back end. That's really when you start to change that experience for your customer. So just looking at a few of these, great design. We really need sites that are modern. We need sites that are mobile friendly, that have a great search, very Google-like type of search. These are the things that customers are looking for that are more B2C oriented. But on the B2B side, we also need the site to be smart enough to realize who is logged in. This is a buyer for a particular ship-to location. They're not allowed to place orders for other ship-tos. This system needs to be smart enough to know that. And so things like security and access have to allow for that sort of restriction based on who's logging in. We need the integration to the ERP, and that has to be tight and performant. And we also, again, need to make sure that our sales team can log into this site and be able to interact with their customers. So really think about the ideal site having both B2C features and B2B features. So that brings us to the Insite Online solution, and that's really what we're excited to talk with you about today. Insite and NSA are working together to bring this solution to distributors that are really looking for an all-in-one solution, a solution that can deliver a great corporate website, a great online catalog, a portal, e-commerce, and then all of the admin and content management tools for your team to be able to manage it without programmers, giving you really much more of a easy-to-use admin for the site. Insite is all cloud-based, so you don't need to worry about hosting, and you don't need to worry about managing the site itself because that's all done through the subscription. These sites search very well. They have strong SEO optimization and allow you to have some of your product line, or all of your product line for that matter, visible to the search engines. And then finally, a deep connected experience to the Infor system so that inventory, products, order history, all of those things are quickly able to be pulled up by the customer. Insite's also one of the few solutions out there that comes with a mobile app. And this has become a very popular add-on for Insite Online because you'd no longer need to go off and hire a separate company to build you a mobile app, but rather, once you've launched your site with Insite Online, you now have a mobile app that can be downloaded from the App Store. It has your logo, your products, and it also has other features that websites do not. Thumbprint security, for example, geo location and location awareness with mobility, and then finally the ability to scan a barcode. If someone wants to be able to pull up a barcode and scan it, that can act as a search feature. So this is a very nice add-on that a good number of distributors have been excited about. All right. So rather than just talk about the Insight online solution, what I'd really like to do is go in and show you some examples of the solution, and then I'd love to also take you into a couple of different demo sites for this. So Insight and NSA have worked together with a few companies. So Mingledorff's, they are a distributor in the HVAC category, and then Hisco. And Hisco is really a widely known distributor and supplier of all kinds of industrial goods and industrial supply. But these are both sites that have been deployed using the Insight online solution. And Insight has the ability to really offer different front-end experiences. We can offer a front-end experience that's really designed to be very clean and very simple. We offer front-end experiences that can handle a large number of SKUs. Hisco is a great example of that, where they have several 100,000 SKUs within their system. You'll find that the Insight solution really does allow for, first of all, fast performance, so the ability for customers to find products quickly and easily, a good, strong search, so that as I start to look for a particular item, whether I'm using a part number, whether I'm using a description or even a product name, I have the ability to pull up different categories of products, different part numbers of products, and recommend individual SKUs. Now, you have the option to decide, do I want my products to be purchasable by a guest user or not? With Insight, not everyone is looking to sell to the public, but they do want to have visibility of their products to the public. Mingledorff's will sell some items public, and others they will not. And the same goes for Hisco. Hisco has a number of SKUs that they will require, and maybe the manufacturer even requires that they need to have an account, or they're not allowed to show the pricing online. But certainly other products, they do want to sell online, and these are the products that search well when a user is out on Google, perhaps looking for the product. Let me take you into a demonstration site. In fact, I have a couple of demonstration sites, because one of the nice elements of Insight is that you have different design options that can be leveraged for your company. Now, if you're going to use this for your corporate site, or if you're just going to use it for e-commerce, Insight has different templates or themes, we like to call them. This happens to be a template or a theme that's really designed for companies that are very brand forward, right? They have a lot of good photography. They have a lot of strong imagery for their products. Allows us to quickly go down into a product category and promote that category. And then obviously rich content when we get down to the product level, so that we can look up specifications. Maybe I have documents, videos, and other information. There are other themes available as well. In fact, as you looked at the Mingledorff site, you'll notice that that site leverages a very similar template to what you see here. And this might be for organizations that have a handful of good images that they can use. Maybe they need to leverage some stock images. But you can also have a site up and running without a lot of strong branded materials. Really comes down to your preference and what you're looking for. The same sort of ease of use applies here. The ability for us to quickly find what we're looking for, either through left-hand navigation, product filtering, and these are the different attributes that many companies will maintain so that they can allow a customer to quickly find the item they're looking for. Or they may just want to leverage the search, in which case, you know, the customer is going to be looking up a particular nailer or whatever the product name or the description might be, and they can resolve to that item and quickly get in, find it, and perhaps order that item. Or again, you may want to require them to sign in before they can order it, as you see this site also requiring. Now, once I sign in, and there are different types of users that can sign into the site. There's going to be different types of customers. Your sales team can log in, and when a salesperson logs in, they're going to select their accounts. They're going to select a ship-to location. And once I've done that, now I have access to much more capability. As you can see here, I have the ability to go in and change my information. I can change, if I have the authority to do this as a user, I can change addresses. I can change my users. So on the customer side, if you don't want to get phone calls about passwords, the customer admin has the ability to go in and change passwords and change that information. There's other capabilities here too. So I have the ability to pull up invoices. I can pull up job quotes. I can look up order history. And I can even go in and set up different types of lists or request a quote for these products. Now let's go ahead and add this product to our cart. You can see I also have the ability to add it to a list. But as I go in to check out, I have a number of different options. As a B2B user, this is a wholesale customer, I might see a different price here. I may have a contract price, and coming from the Infor system, that price will change based on my login. I can check out here. I can request a quote. Maybe I'm ordering a large number of these units, and I'm sending a note to my salesperson that I'd like a better price. Or I could save this order and come back to it later. So there's some very nice capability for different types of users that are logging into the system. Now, as I log in as a customer, I have what we call a dashboard. And this, for some organizations, they may consider this a portal. But this portal or dashboard then allows me to see, there's a quote that is waiting for me as a salesperson. Or I'm a buyer and someone from my organization is requesting an order that I need to approve before it flows into the system. So this dashboard allows me to go in and see items I've purchased, lists of items that I might want to consider purchasing, and then even some recently viewed items that I've looked at in the past. So some very nice capability that is unique based on login. If I'm a salesperson, I'm going to see obviously quite a bit more. If I'm a customer, I may only see the features that I'm entitled to see. So that was just a brief flyover that I wanted to offer you, but I'd also like to share with you the fact that the Insight solution comes with an admin environment. We call it the management console, but when you launch a site using Insight, this really is the tool that your team can use to go in and manage orders, to manage content. You have the ability to go in and manage the content for these different websites. You can manage the products. In fact, Insight allows you to manage all of the content for a product, both that lives in the SX or the Infor system, as well as videos, additional images. Maybe there's other attributes that don't live in Infor. You'll be able to manage all of that from this admin environment. So it's a very rich and easy to use experience that, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't require any development in order to launch the site or to manage the site. And when we can eliminate that customization, it helps us to launch sites at less cost, and it also helps us to get our product to market faster. So would love to share more with those of you that are interested, but I wanted to provide you with just a brief flyover today of the Insight solution. Let's talk a little bit about the integration points. So those of you on the call today, you're obviously very interested in how does Insight connect to my ERP? How is it going to interact? And Insight has created what we call connectors. And these connectors allow our cloud-based solution over here on the right to connect to your ERP solution. And whether you're using perhaps a slightly older version of SX or A+, or if you're leveraging Cloud Suite, or planning to leverage Cloud Suite, Insight will communicate with the ERP and will do it in a way that will maximize performance. As we all know, if we tried to pull all data real time, we would certainly not be giving our customers the online experience, the speed they're looking for. And so some data will be refreshed nightly. Some data would be refreshed even less than that if it doesn't change very often. But there are certain fields of data that we might need to pull on a transaction-by-transaction basis. Inventory is a good example of that. We might need to call inventory. That would be real time. And so you'll see that there's some information here that's going to be done in more of a batch mode, others in real time. But there's other integrations that are also important. Payment gateway, tax. Many of you may be leveraging a SendPOS solution. So that obviously being a real-time integration, we tokenize that credit card information so that we aren't storing it, you aren't storing it, and the solution can be fully PCI compliant. And then the same is true for tax calculations. If you're leveraging a third party for tax or not, that call for tax processing will need to be done in a real-time basis. So that's just a brief overview of how the Insight solution would interact and integrate with your Infor system. So we've talked a little bit about these customers that have leveraged the Insight solution. I showed you a couple of examples, and I would really encourage you to feel free and go out and take a look at the Hisco site. Wonderful site that has been on the Insight platform for a good number of years. They do allow for the product viewing, public viewing of product, and so you'll be able to go out and take a look at their information. Mingledorff's also has the ability. Now, there's some products that are not going to be orderable online, but it really gives you two very good examples of organizations that one that's just getting started. Mingledorff's is a fairly new customer, in Hisco, one that has been really building out their content on their site online for the last several years on Insight. So I encourage you to feel free and take a look at those. And then really to think about your project, not just as a website. We find that organizations that say, I just need to get a website up, when we hear that, it usually means that this isn't a strategic effort. This isn't something that you're expecting to use to interact with your customers. The companies that we see succeed are those that look at this and say, this is much more than a website. This becomes our system of digital interaction with our customers. And that really can change the way that you interact with them. So, as Brian mentioned, one of the things that we'd love to offer you is what we call a website audit. And this website audit is really something that we feel organizations benefit from because it gives us an opportunity to go out and take a look at your site or your sites, you may have several, and to really see, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your site. And we have consultants that do this on a regular basis and would conduct that assessment, would provide you then with a rating of your site against best practices, really a spreadsheet that helps to rate how are you doing? Are you doing these things today or not? And then some suggested features that we feel would be helpful for you to add to your current site for improvement. And an audit like this is often something that companies will pay $500 or even more for. So NSA is going to provide this to folks that have participated in this webinar at no cost. And that'll be through October 1st. So we encourage you to take advantage of that as well. So Brian, why don't I turn it back over to you and just to make any comments about that special offer while I'll pull together a few of the questions that we have coming in.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Brian, for that presentation and the demonstration. As you can see, those that are attending, there's a significant experience here in the SX.e world. We're pleased to bring Insight to you as a preferred vendor, certainly, and we're seeing a lot of activity with e-commerce. It truly is transformational for businesses. It makes it easier for your customers to do business with you, and also makes for a large differentiator. We know that distributors are always looking for that differentiation. Price is not a good one to deal with. It's better to have other options, and this one is a big one. So, with that, I'll turn it back over to Brian and see if we have any questions that have come in.
We do. I have a couple of questions, and by the way, if any of you would like to submit questions at this time, you can certainly do that down in your panel. Question number one, if we deploy Insight, does it require a separate CMS? Our current website requires that we leverage WordPress. Great question. And that really gets to the slide earlier of that complex spider web of solutions. A lot of companies have to use a WordPress or maybe a Wix to run their corporate site, and some are even using that for their catalog. With an Insight solution, you can eliminate that additional technology. Insight can run your corporate site, your online catalog, and then all of your login-based portal and customer capabilities. And it comes with a content management system. It comes with a solution that many customers have told us is even easier to use than their WordPress system today. So great question. Appreciate that. The second question that I have here is, how long does a project like this take? That's obviously another good question. And, what I like to do is really understand from companies what their expectations are before we answer a question like that. In fact, the two sites that we showed you earlier, you see the Mingledorf site as well as the Hisco site. It often depends on how many products you're looking to have online, and also the design that you're looking for. Are you looking for a complex design, a lot of custom design? Are you willing to stay closer to maybe some of the templates that I showed you today? Sites typically start at around a 90-day project. If you're able to stay fairly close to the templates, you're able to get connected to your Infor system and start that flow of data. If you have content today, if you have images today for your products, I'd say that it's reasonable that a site could launch in that 90 to 120-day time frame. If you're a Hisco, right, and you have hundreds of thousands of SKUs, you have a lot of content, and perhaps even more of a complex design that you'd like to implement, then those projects are going to take longer. But I think that 90-day time frame is a really good place to start. So good. Well, those are the questions that came in. But one of the offers that I'll always make is after this session, if you'd like to submit any other questions, please feel free. Contact your NSA representative. Reach out to Brian, and he would be happy to get us connected. And most importantly, if you'd like to take advantage of that offer, that assessment offer, please reach out to either Brian or your NSA contact for next steps with that. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for participating, and I hope we get the chance to chat about your online strategy and hopefully help you down the road.
Excellent. Well,
Thanks,
I want to
everyone.
thank everyone and we'll give you back the rest of your hour. And please reach out for us, with that promotional offer on that website audit. We thank Insight for being generous and to being able to provide that for us. Thank you.